In the news tonight, a ceasefire that began in Syria is reported holding across much of the country, despite state media reporting rocket attacks near Damascus and other suicide bombings by Daesh. Saudi Arabia launches a massive military exercise dubbed North Thunder, involving troops from 20 nations, with the aim of enhancing Arab and Muslim countries' readiness to fight terror. And Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and key ally, former President Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani, win most votes in the race for membership of the influential Assembly of Experts. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. His Majesty King Abdullah expressed pride in the efforts of His Royal Highness Prince Ali ibn al-Hussein since he began campaigning for the FIFA presidency, seeking to develop the world football's governing body and advance the sport on regional and international levels. In a phone conversation with Prince Ali at the end of FIFA election, His Majesty said Prince Ali's vision for the advancement of football and his continued efforts to promote its high values would always inspire those who look to positive change. Although luck was not on his side, Prince Ali has received world recognition for his efforts throughout the FIFA bid, having identified the challenges facing football with courage, transparency and impartiality, said King Abdullah. For his part, Prince Ali said he will continue to work towards his goals, and his program on the regional and international levels will not be limited to a certain time frame or a certain position, but is a consistent approach and continued efforts. Prime Minister Abdullah Nsour received at his office President of the Contractors Association Wael Tuqan and association members to discuss their demands on amending profit margins and taxation, among other financial issues related to public tenders. Present at the meeting were Minister of Public Works and Housing Sami Halassa and Finance Minister Omar Malhas, as well as House Representatives Abdurrahim Qa'i and Fakhri Qawar. These sectors' representatives made a series of demands, top of which is reduction of taxes and other fees in ratio to net profit from 25% to 20%. Nsour directed the Minister of Public Works and Housing and the Minister of Finance to review the association's demands and the effect of possible amendments on the Treasury. Jordan condemned a terrorist attack that targeted a park and a hotel in the Somali capital Mogadishu and left innocent people killed or injured. Minister of State for Media Affairs Mohammed al-Momani renewed Jordan's firm stance in rejecting all forms of such terror acts that only aim to destabilize security and stability across the world. Momani called on the international community to step up efforts in the war against terrorist groups. He also offered Jordan's support to the Somali government and people. The death toll from yesterday's attack by a Somali extremist group in the capital Mogadishu has risen to 14, while 30 others have been injured. Among the dead were 5 members of the security forces. Al-Shabaab militants claimed responsibility for the attack next to a busy park and a hotel. The government said a truck bomb was detonated near the entrance to the park and close to the Somali Youth League hotel. The truck bomb was carrying 200 kilograms of explosives. It is the best hope for peace in 5 years, as described by the United States. A ceasefire that began today in Syria is reported holding across much of the country. Under the U.S.-Russian accord accepted by the Syrian government and many opposing factions, the fighting should cease to allow aid to reach civilians and so that talks can open to end the war. The agreement is the first of its kind to be attempted in 4 years, and if it holds, would be the most successful truce of the war so far. Russia, although excluded from the ceasefire, said it would suspend all flights over Syria for the first day to ensure no wrong targets were hit by mistake. Lieutenant General Sergei Rudskoy made a press briefing to that effect.
According to the agreement reached between Russia and the United States, the Russian Federation has completely stopped attacks in the Green Zone. That is to say, those areas and armed units that have sent to us requests for ceasefire. In all areas, we completely control the situation in Syria. We use unmanned aerial vehicles, satellite and other means to carry out reconnaissance every day.
Rutskoy said Russia has sent up to 534 tons of humanitarian aid, including food, medicine and fuel, to areas assaulted by rebels. He also urged international organizations, institutes and communities that have influence on Syria to make their best efforts to carry out the ceasefire agreement to ensure a long-lasting peace in Syria. Although overall the level of violence was far reduced under the cessation of hostilities deal for Syria, state media described rocket attacks near Damascus and several deadly attacks by Daesh. At least 6 people were killed and several were wounded in 2 attacks claimed by Daesh bombers in Hama province. State media said a bomber driving a car loaded with explosives blew himself up in the early hours, killing 2 people on the edge of the town of Selmiye, a front line between the Syrian army and Daesh terrorists. Soon afterwards, another suicide bomber on a motorbike struck at the entrance to the village of Tiba, killing 4 people. During the early morning hours, U.S.-led coalition planes carried out 10 airstrikes to repel an assault by Daesh terrorists on Tel Abyad, a Kurdish-controlled town on Syria's border with Turkey. The attack on Tel Abyad and on nearby town of Suluk came hours after a truce came into effect, but which excludes Daesh and Nusra Front and gives the right to the Syrian government, Moscow and the coalition to strike at the 2 terrorist groups. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said 45 Daesh terrorists and 20 Kurdish militia fighters were killed. Tel Abyad, north of Raqqa, used to be a key supply line for Daesh until it was captured by the YPG last year. The U.S.-led coalition also targeted Daesh elsewhere in Syria and Iraq since yesterday. A total of 22 strikes were launched over the past day. The U.S. military said in a statement that 7 of the 14 strikes in Iraq were near Mosul in the north that hit tactical units and fighting positions, while in Syria 5 of the 8 strikes destroyed Daesh buildings near Al-Hol. Saudi Arabia launched a massive military exercise that involves troops from 20 nations, including Jordan. The drill, dubbed a North Thunder, involves troops from Arab and Muslim countries and aims to enhance the participating countries' coordination and readiness in the fight against terror. The exercise is taking place in King Khalid military city in northeastern Saudi Arabia. Saudi state media called it the largest in the region's history and will involve air, sea and land forces. The agency said North Thunder drills represent a clear message that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the participating countries stand united to confront all challenges and maintain peace and stability in the region. U.S. President Barack Obama said that while the ceasefire in Syria will not end violence right away, it is something that needs to happen, as he called for all parties to end attacks, including aerial bombardments.
Hi, everybody. This week, we continued our mission to destroy ISIL. This remains a difficult fight, and the situation in Syria and Iraq is incredibly complex. ISIL's entrenched, including in urban areas. It uses innocent civilians as human shields. Despite these challenges, though, I can report that we're making progress. And this week, I directed my team to continue accelerating our campaign on all fronts. That said, there will be absolutely no ceasefire in our fight against ISIL. We will remain relentless. Beyond Syria and Iraq, we continue to use the full range of our tools to go after ISIL wherever it tries to take root, as we showed with our recent strike on an ISIL training camp in Libya. With partners around the world, we'll continue discrediting the ideology that ISIL uses to radicalize and recruit and inspire people to violence, especially online.
A Taliban suicide bomber blew himself up near the Afghan Defense Ministry in Kabul, killing 12 people and wounding 8. The attack occurred as Defense Ministry workers were leaving their offices and put prospects for new peace talks in doubt. It comes as officials from Afghanistan, Pakistan, the United States and China have been pressing for a resumption of the peace process interrupted last year between the government in Kabul and the Taliban. Hours earlier, an attack on the eastern province of Kunar killed 13 people, among them a local militia commander, and wounded around 40 others. A suicide bomber blew himself up outside the governor's compound in Asadabad, near the border with Pakistan. Officials said the bomber rode up on a motorcycle to the entrance of the compound and blew himself up. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for this attack. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and key ally and former President Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani won most votes in the race for membership of the influential Assembly of Experts. Rafsanjani topped the ballot with Rouhani second. Tens of millions thronged polling stations yesterday for a twin vote to the 290-seat parliament and the 88-member Assembly of Experts, which selects the country's highest authority, the supreme leader. Reformists won 29 out of the 30 seats reserved for Tehran, with hardliners winning the single remaining seat. And to the U.S. elections, South Carolinians headed to the polls today as voting began in the state's Democratic primary. In the battle for votes between Democratic presidential candidates Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, Clinton is poised to win big over Sanders in South Carolina's primary contest, in part because of her outsized support among the state's rural African Americans, a bloc that Sanders has struggled to impress. Over the past several weeks, she has stomped in parts of the state that are off the beaten path, reinforcing connections with audiences. By contrast, Sanders has focused his visits on South Carolina's big cities and universities, while relying heavily on surrogates to do his work elsewhere. On the Republican front, meanwhile, it is getting uglier. Presidential candidate Ted Cruz went after frontrunner Donald Trump again, undeterred by opinion polls predicting the billionaire would win big in the crucial Super Tuesday nominating contest. With Trump increasingly looking to be the party's likely nominee for the November 8 election, Cruz made the argument that the businessman is not the right man for conservatives. Cruz brought up the real estate developer tax return audits and lack of disclosure on those returns. Cruz also followed rival Marco Rubio's attacks on Trump over his use of imported Polish workers to build a Trump Tower and Romanian immigrants to work at a Florida resorts. To Italy and the Milan Fashion Week. The digital age was at the forefront of the Emporio Armani fashion show, with Italian designer Giorgio Armani dotting his women's wear fall line with bold, colorful shapes. The autumn-winter 2016-2017 line, called New Pop, blended classic style and digital designs. In a mainly black collection mixed with flashes of bright color, the designers softened day suits with looser silhouettes in an apparent nod to the 80s, reinforced by multicolored mohair jumpers and plenty of sequins. Armani presented short skirts in shiny patent black and floaty jumpsuits that looked skirt-like from high-tech heroines. For the evening wear, Armani turned to sparkles, putting shiny black as well as colored sequins on elegant dresses, jackets and coats. He paired the outfits with bold yellow, green and pink sturdy round heels. Show Veronica Etro presented lots of vibrant patterns and embroidery that decorated leather jackets, coats and long dresses. Known for its famed paisley print, Etro added plate this time, namely in red and black, as well as kimono, tiger and dragon prints for her fall outfits. The designer's line was a highly functional seasonal wardrobe, ready for both day as night. Models wore reversible outerwear, ribbed turtlenecks, silky pajama trousers and long printed chiffon dresses in mainly rich dark colors. Milan Fashion Week runs until the 29th. We begin with the La Liga, and Atletico Madrid won a third consecutive Bernabeu derby to practically end Real Madrid's title hopes. Antoine Griezmann scored the only goal early in the second half when he steered Filipe Luis's pass home. Diego Simeone's side are now 5 points off leaders Barcelona, who face Sevilla at the Nou Camp tomorrow, while Real are 9 points below the champions. The result means Atletico are the first side in La Liga history to win 3 times in a row at the Bernabeu, as Real fans called for club president Florentino Perez to resign. This was Real's first defeat in 9 matches under coach Zinedine Zidane. Former Scotland and Rangers manager Alex McLeish was presented to the media as the new coach of Egyptian giants Zamalek, promising to do everything in his power to coach the team to success. In a news conference at the club's headquarters in Cairo, McLeish said he would look to improve the players' knowledge of the tactical side of the game. McLeish, who has also managed English sides Birmingham City, Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest, takes over from Mido after the former Tottenham forward was fired 2 weeks ago in the wake of a 2-0 Cairo derby defeat to arch-rivals Al Ahly. His contract will last 18 months and his first game against Al Intag Al Harbi in the Egyptian League Cup is on Wednesday. Zamalek currently trail in the Egyptian Premier League by 3 points to Al Ahly, who last week also announced that another former English Premier League manager, Dutchman Martin Jol, is set to join the team next week.
The understanding of the tactical side of the game is something that can help the team to go even further and have the success that everybody.
And finally, relatively cold conditions prevail in most regions for the rest of tonight, with northwesterly moderate to brisk winds. Tomorrow, warm weather prevails across the kingdom with partly cloudy skies and easterly moderate winds. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect hot conditions with northerly moderate to brisk winds and slightly choppy seas. Here now is the temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. A ceasefire that began in Syria is reported holding across much of the country, despite state media reporting rocket attacks near Damascus and other suicide bombings by Daesh. Saudi Arabia launches a massive military exercise dubbed North Thunder, involving troops from 20 nations with the aim of enhancing Arab and Muslim countries' readiness to fight terror. And Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and key ally former President Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani win most votes in the race for membership of the influential Assembly of Experts. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Alia Tuqan. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.